From a woman who traded a night of passion for virtual gold to a massacre that killed 77 people, developing from a World of Warcraft obsession. Today, we're diving into the darker side of gaming. These stories are not for the faint of heart, so ready your health potions because this journey is about to get intense. But first, we do have to thank the sponsor for this video, Old School RuneScape, Trailblazer. If the recent Season of Discovery announcement from Blizzard Entertainment got you excited, you will definitely want to hear about this. Leagues 4 Trailblazer is Old School RuneScape's latest league, a seasonal game mode, which runs until mid-January. To quickly explain, it is a fast-paced version of Old School RuneScape with huge experience boosts, loot drops, and powerful relics which offer various buffs and abilities which change the game in ways that you can't even imagine. If you haven't been playing RuneScape for a while, player counts are higher than they have ever been. Lots of players are starting fresh right now. It really is the best time to jump in and try out Old School RuneScape. A big thank you to Jagex for sponsoring this video. Remember, check out Leagues 4 Trailblazer Reloaded for a new way to play RuneScape with huge XP and loot boosts and insane buffs and power-ups, linked down below in the description. Number 1. An unconventional trade. To kick things off, there is no better way to start than talking about the best game ever made, World of Warcraft. This game has captivated millions with its rich lore and expansive world, but from all the stories out there, one stands out, and not for its valor, but its sheer audacity. There was a post on Craigslist that sent shockwaves through the WoW community when a female player made an offer that was hard to believe. She was willing to trade her body for 5,000 gold in-game. Her objective? An epic flying mount. This was during the time when the Burning Crusade expansion had just been released. Now, while many players grind for hours battling monsters and completing quests to earn their gold, this player's approach was, well, let's say unique. And the most surprising part, she went through with it. She thanked those who spread her story, stating that she did get her epic mount in an enjoyable hour, while others spent countless hours farming for theirs. She even threw in a cheeky comment saying that she'd be killing any in-game trolls 280% faster thanks to the new mount. And as for the gentleman who took her up on the offer, he apparently got, quote, double value for his gold, unquote. Now that is getting some bang for your buck. Number 2. A fatal gaming marathon. Now the next story is one that many hardcore gamers can sympathize with. In the realm of gaming, time often seems to stand still. The thrill of finding new discoveries or the drive to achieve the next level cap can be all-consuming. Kiyawat Harikan, a 17-year-old Thai gamer, knew this too well. With a passion for MOBA games, his sessions often stretched into the wee hours of the morning. His room, a gaming sanctuary, was littered with food containers, proof of his marathon sessions. But on one fateful day, the line between dedication and obsession blurred tragically. His father made the heart-wrenching discovery of his son lifeless at his gaming desk, and the cause was a stroke. This young man had pushed his body to the absolute limits until his heart decided it was not enough. All the food, the long hours, it was a reminder of the physical toll that relentless gaming can take. But as you're about to see next, sometimes the stakes are even higher. Number 3, straight out of a horror movie. We all know in the world of gaming, competition can be brutal, right? Gamers invest time, energy, and their emotions into every single match that they play. And this is especially true for teenagers like Vasya Turda, a 14-year-old Ukrainian gamer. Born into wealth, Turda had access to the latest gaming technology. And one day, he invited his friend, Vasya Pop, to his family's mansion to showcase his new high-tech gear. But as the hours ticked by, a heated argument erupted as these two gamed together. Now, it's unknown what the argument was about, but there's a likely probability that he was at the losing end of the game. The disagreement spiraled out of control, leading to Vasya to a frenzied knife attack on his friend. Pop suffered a staggering 27 stab wounds and was found dead by his grandmother, with his neck slashed from ear to ear. The aftermath was a scene straight out of a horror movie, a blood-soaked mansion, a body with its head nearly decapitated, and a maniac standing over it. There were even reports that the body was, well, there's really no easy way to say this, but played with afterwards. And that's just a little bit creepy. While many of us have felt the sting of a game's defeat, this person clearly took it too far. Number 4, Florida. Okay, so that was pretty intense, okay? But there is more. Picture this. The GLHF Game Bar in Jacksonville, Florida is buzzing at the Madden NFL 19 tournament that is underway. Loads of talented and dedicated gamers are having fun, competing against the best of the best. And among them is David Katz, a 24-year-old from Baltimore. Now, known for his intense focus and quiet demeanor, Katz was a regular in the competitive gaming circuit, but that day, something was different. His usual calm was replaced by this odd tension. As the tournament progressed, the room filled with the sounds of virtual football plays and light banter, which would soon take a very dark turn. Without warning, the room was pierced by pop, 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 and an unmistakable sound of gunfire. Katz, having lost the game he was playing, he had walked to the back lounge and started firing several rounds at the competitors. 2 of the world's top Madden gamers, Elijah Clayton and Taylor Robertson, were tragically killed in this event, and another 13 were left injured. The chilling footage from the venue shows Katz's calculated movements, bypassing others and zeroing in on his competitors. This was not an accident. It was a clear, targeted attack. In fact, it was later reported Katz came equipped with 2 firearms, a .45 caliber and a 9mm, the latter fitted with a laser scope. If you're wondering what happened, in the end he committed suicide with the last bullet he had in his gun. Witness reports say that he calculated the number of shots as he fired them. If there's anything to take away from this, be careful of the quiet ones. Number 5, the deadly lure of the blue whale. Now, this story is featured actually as a Netflix documentary. The internet is an ocean of information, entertainment, and unfortunately sometimes danger. And among the most sinister threats to emerge from its depths was the, quote, blue whale challenge, unquote. This online game targeted vulnerable teenagers, leading them down a dark path of 50 tasks over 50 days. Now, these tasks would begin relatively harmless. Watch a horror movie, wake up at an odd hour, but as the days pass, the tasks grow darker and darker, eventually leading the young people to take the ultimate challenge, which is suicide. Now, Russia, which was already grappling with high suicide rates, saw over 130 teen deaths linked to this game. Now, 2 such victims, whose names are written on your screen right now, I cannot pronounce these, they tragically ended their lives hugging one another in front of a runaway freight train, leaving behind haunting social media posts of a blue whale. Regardless of how they're played, games can lead to devastating consequences, especially for those most vulnerable. Whoever created this game is definitely a sick person, and if you thought that was disturbing, the next story goes even deeper into the shadows of gaming. Number 6, the dark side of PUBG. In the virtual world of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, aka PUBG, players are immersed in a battle royale, fighting to be the last person standing. But for this 15-year-old Russian teenager, the game's violent premise took a dark turn in reality. Consumed by the game, this man began to blur the lines between the virtual and the real world. He was obsessed with killing in his favorite video game, and he really wanted to replay a scenario he had experienced to know what murder felt like in real life. Driven by this morbid curiosity to experience a real-life kill, he targeted a 21-year-old university student who was a complete stranger named Daria. While she was withdrawing money at a local ATM, he snuck up behind her and, armed with a knife, he stabbed her multiple times in the eyes, neck, and chest. She died almost instantly. Ultimately, he was traced back to his home where he was found playing PUBG. In a chilling confession, he eerily stated, "I have always wanted to see when a person dies by your own hand. A voice inside me told me what had to be done." Now that's dark. Number 7, Taiwan's 3-day gaming binge. The next story takes place in Taiwan, where internet cafes are more than just a place to check emails. They're gaming havens, fun fact. But for one gamer, a 32-year-old, his quest for gaming glory became a deadly marathon. Entering the cafe, he embarked on a 3-day gaming spree. But this wasn't just any gaming session, fellas, it was his last. After 3 days of continuous gaming, he collapsed onto the table and he laid there motionless for several hours. And you want to know what the creepy part is? Apparently the gamers around him, they didn't think anything was unusual about this. They continued playing, unfazed by the tragedy unfolding beside them. You can even watch the footage from the cafe, watching these people playing as if nothing was going on. Just imagine a person collapsing to their death right beside you while you're playing a game, and you don't even flinch. After several hours and with little to no movement, an employee did eventually notice and come by to investigate, but by the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. The cause? Cardiac failure, likely due to the cold temperatures and the sheer exhaustion this man must have went through. Number 8, Call of Duty. Alright, so we all know that in online gaming, trash talk, it's as common as loot boxes. And most disputes, they'll usually end with a rage quit or a block. But for two Call of Duty players, a virtual feud led to something completely different. The case was between Casey Wiener, known in-game as Vaporizer, and Shane Gaskill, who went by the name of Miracle. Now, their names are cringe enough to spark a feud, but the two clashed over an incident of friendly fire during an online tournament hosted by UMG Gaming. Now, this seemingly minor in-game mishap led to both players losing the match, and more tangibly, a wager of $1.50. All right, for those that don't live in the States, that's like the cost of a small Slurpee. Instead of moving on, the two took their feud to Twitter, and they exchanged insults over their shared defeat. The situation then intensified when Wiener threatened to swat Gaskill. Now, in a defiant move, Gaskill responded by providing a false address linked to a previous residence, and seizing the opportunity, Wiener reached out to an acquaintance, Tyler Barris, a man with a checkered past and a history of criminal activities, and he, seeing the chance for mischief, decided to execute the swatting prank. Now, this isn't the first time this has happened, but in this tragic incident, the address given was entirely unrelated to the feud. So here's what happened. An innocent father with no connection to this game, he was shot and he was killed by police on his doorstep. The virtual world's vendettas spilled into reality with fatal consequences for somebody completely unrelated to what was going on. Now, the aftermath of this event was profound. In 2019, a federal judge handed down a 20-year prison sentence to Tyler, a decision meant to shed light on the lethal consequences of swatting and serve as a deterrent to others who might consider such reckless actions. So yeah, if you think you're being funny, by pulling this on a fellow gamer, try dropping some soap while you're in jail. Let's just put it that way. Number 9, Pokemon Death. You remember the summer of 2016? The world was just gripped by this phenomenon called Pokemon Go. Streets were flooded with trainers, eyes were glued to their phones, hunting for that elusive Pikachu or Dragonite, but amidst all the fun, the game had a darker side. Players, so engrossed in catching them all, often overlooked real-world dangers. Within the initial 148 days post-launch, the game was linked to a staggering cost of up to $7.3 billion across the United States. This wasn't just a financial toll. The game was associated with a 5% spike in road fatalities compared to data from previous years. Reports of players trespassing in cemeteries, memorials, and even railway tracks flooded in. Abandoned buildings became hotspots for Pokemon encounters, and essential locations like fire stations were besieged by players. And in one particular tragic event in 2016, Jerson Lopez de Leon paid the ultimate price for his passion for this game. Lured by the promise of a rare catch, he and his cousin decided to take the risk and to break into a house. The homeowner, mistaking him for a burglar, shot him dead at the scene. Friends, we all love games, but don't forget your common sense. Number 10, the 24-hour stream. In the age of Twitch and live streaming, gamers from all over the world broadcast their skills hoping to gain followers, fame, maybe a few donations. Brian, known to his friends as Pos Hybrid, was no different. With a passion for World of Tanks, Brian decided to embark on a marathon streaming session, not just for the views, but for a noble cause to raise money for charity. Specifically, the Make-A-Wish Foundation. These marathon sessions are pretty common, guys, but after 22 hours of non-stop gaming, Brian took what viewers thought was a short break. He told his followers he was going to step outside for a quick smoke. And then, minutes, it turned into hours. And Brian, he never returned to the stream. So what happened? Well, the gaming community was shocked when news broke out that Brian had passed away during his marathon session. The cause? A lethal combination of exhaustion and opioid fentanyl. Sometimes, guys, the marathons are just not worth it. Number 11, the virtual world's dark grip. Let's talk about MMORPGs again. EverQuest, also called Evercrack or Never Rest by its fanbase, has garnered notoriety for its addictive qualities. In fact, the game's grip on some of its players is so strong that support groups have emerged, offering help to individuals whose relationships have deteriorated because of their partner's unyielding fixation on EverQuest. Sean Woolley was one such individual that was so captured by this game's allure that he quit his job to dive deeper into its virtual depths. The game became his world, the characters his companions, and the quests his purpose. But one faithful day, in 2002, the game's siren song took a dark turn. Ignoring a family invitation for Thanksgiving, Sean's mother found him lifeless in front of his computer. EverQuest still running, its landscapes eerily serene. A self-inflicted gunshot wound marked the tragic end of Sean's journey. Now, the reasons remained shrouded in mystery, but his mother speculated that it may have been related to a troubled in-game relationship or what she sees as EverQuest's addictive qualities. As condolences poured in, a haunting question lingered. How can a world of pixels and code hold such sway over a human soul? Number 12, a murder in Farmville. Take this story from Farmville, for example. This is a seemingly innocent game on Facebook. Players tend to crops, they take care of animals, and of course, this became the backdrop for a horrifying act in 2010. Alexandra Tobias, engrossed in her virtual farm, was interrupted by the cries of her 3-month son, Dylan. But instead of tending to her child, a dark impulse took over. In a fit of rage, Alexandra shook Dylan violently, not once but multiple times, knocking his fragile head against the computer in an attempt to quiet him. And the result was tragic. The baby became unresponsive shortly after the violent shaking, and she was forced to call the paramedics. The baby was quickly taken to the hospital with a broken leg and head trauma, and the next day, the child died from, quote, abusive head trauma, end quote. This young life was snuffed out, all for a moment of interrupted gameplay in Farmville. Later, Alexandra confessed to her crime and received the maximum sentence allowed by her plea, 50 years. Number 13, a game of endurance. So far we've talked a lot about tragic stories, murders, and just horrible things. This is a bit of an odd one. Enter the scene Sacramento, California, 2007. A radio contest with a catchy title, Hold Your Wii for a Wii, promised contestants the chance to win the highly sought-after Nintendo Wii. What was the challenge? Well, you had to drink 2 gallons of water without taking a bathroom break. That sounds kind of simple, right? But as we've seen time and time again, when gaming and reality collide, the results can be a little unpredictable. Jennifer Strange, a 28-year-old mother, was among those eager participants. As the contest progressed, Jennifer consumed water bottle after water bottle, determined to outlast her competitors. She successfully drank the 2 gallons of water the contest rules specified, but while she was participating in the contest, she complained to the hosts that she felt kind of unwell. Now, unfortunately, instead of helping, they mocked her and referenced the release that she had signed, absolving them of responsibility. Soon, this game took a dark turn. Hours after the contest, Jennifer was found dead in her home. And what was the cause? Water intoxication. Her body could not process the excessive amounts of water she had consumed, leading to a fatal swelling of her brain. Strange's husband, Billy Strange, sued the radio station for $16.5 million in compensation, successfully arguing that the radio station had knowledge of the risks and chose to ignore them. Sadly, she left behind 3 children and a husband, all thanks to irresponsible game design. Number 14, Xbox Addict. This story comes from an Xbox addict, Chris Steinforth, a 20-year-old passionate gamer who was known to immerse himself in games like Halo. It was his escape, a realm where he could be a hero, battling alien invasions and forging alliances, but this escape came at a deadly cost. Chris's gaming sessions were not just an hour or two. Now, they were up to 12 hours at a stretch on the daily. Eventually, this constant gaming caught up to him one faithful day, when after an interview at a job center, Chris collapsed. The culprit? Deep vein thrombosis, DVT, a condition commonly associated with being immobile for extended periods. Basically, a blood clot had developed, leading to a fatal blockage in his lungs, that caused him to lose his life. He had even described this chest pain to his friend the day prior after the 12-hour gaming session, but he thought nothing of it. The next day, he was gone. Now, if you still don't believe there's a dark side to the gaming world, just wait until you hear our next story. Real quick though, before we reveal the biggest and most tragic story of them all, guys, if you've liked the video, please consider liking, leaving a comment, subscribing. Now let's talk about number 15, the dark side of World of Warcraft. July 2011 marked a tragic chapter in Norway's history. Anders Behring Breivik, a name that would be forever associated with terror, orchestrated a devastating attack that claimed the lives of 77 innocent people. Behind this disgusting act was an unsettling revelation. This man had asserted that the game World of Warcraft had served as his training ground. He had a deep-seated fixation on this game, and that was no secret. He would lose himself in the mythical realm of Azeroth, assuming the role of a valiant warrior. However, as the boundaries between the virtual and real worlds increasingly skewed, an evil scheme began to take root in this man's mind. He was convinced that his in-game experiences had equipped him for a pivotal real-life mission to shield Europe from what he deemed the looming threats of Islam and Marxism. He even had a 1,500-page manifesto where he wrote out all of his beliefs. This man envisioned himself as a contemporary Templar knight, viewing his acts as essential sacrifices for a noble cause. The global gaming company was left reeling, struggling to fathom how World of Warcraft could be contorted to rationalize such a nightmare. Here's what happened. On an ill-fated summer day, Breivik steered a van filled with a homemade fertilizer bomb into Oslo, positioning it near a government building. Moments later, a deadly blast resulted in the deaths of 8 individuals, injuring numerous others and destroying surrounding structures. At the same time, Breivik was on a 25-mile journey to Atoya Island, the venture for a Labour Party youth summer camp. Masquerading as a police officer, he boarded a ferry to the island, and once ashore, he unleashed a barrage of gunfire, killing 69 individuals, the majority being teenagers, and leaving many gravely injured. This sick act has become one of the deadliest gaming-related killing sprees ever. It is clear that the virtual world can sometimes have tragic impacts on the real one, yet don't be disheartened by this video. The gaming community remains vibrant, evolving, full of passionate, harmless, fun-loving players. Our only hope is that just being aware of some of the dangers and the addictions surrounding gaming can bring awareness and understanding to prevent such tragedies in the future. Guys, thank you for joining us on this journey through these stories, and if you're someone who you think you know World of Warcraft, you need to click the video on your screen right now, 100 facts you didn't know about WoW, to test your knowledge of the game. Thanks for watching, everybody.